You're listening to Miscast Commentary.
Hey everybody, welcome to Miscast Commentary, Coming Attractions episode. I'm Joe Findlay.
I'm Todd Tebow, the Sailor Murray.
And we have got a lot to talk about. Well, not as much to talk about. We're going to kind of ease up on us for a little bit, give you a little break on us. And we are bringing you a fantastic guest today. Comedian Myq Kaplan is on the show. He's here talking about his new album, A.K.A, available now for download wherever you download.
Awesome guy.
He was a fantastic guy. We're going to hear from him very shortly. A little bit of housekeeping beforehand, I guess. We will talk about and try and get it out of the way really fast so we don't bum people out. A lot of unfortunate passings away this week. We just lost Jerry Stiller, which was a really sad one. Obviously
I knew
most
of it
people know
because I had deleted all of my history on my phone.
Yeah, you got to do that from time to time.
A good one, that's the real housekeeping right there. Mm-hmm. And then after I deleted it, I went back in and it just goes to like the generalized headlines.
Yes.
And it said Ben Stiller, Jerry Stiller, and I was like, what the hell? And then when I clicked it, Jerry Stiller's died.
I was
92, not a bad age.
No, he
great career.
He lived a life. He had a career, and he will be very missed. Roy Horn of Siegfried and Roy fame also passed away due to COVID-19 complications. So
wasn't he the one that was attacked by the tiger?
He is the one who was attacked by the tiger. So I mean, silver lining, I guess. He wasn't still doing that. What? Like, I don't really know what to say about that.
You survive a tiger attack, and then the flu gets you.
Yeah.
Shit happens,
that kind of attitude is why people are opening up fucking gyms right now in Georgia.
In Georgia, oh my God.
God, they're bananas. It was one of my favorite things. I saw this video on Twitter. It was a bunch of people protesting outside of a gym or outside of someplace saying like open up the gyms and all that stuff. It was just another one of the dumb anti quarantine protests, and they're all sitting out there, and their protest was to do squats and stuff outside of this place, and the response was just, so you're proving that exercises can be done anywhere, whether a gym is open or not?
Is there anything these people won't be anti to? Anything?
They're pro-anti.
I wonder if the government came out and was like, everybody gets a new gun, they'd be like, no, I buy my guns, I'm anti this.
Yeah.
Where's the line?
You're probably going to give me some pussy, government gun.
Or the gun's going to have a fucking microchip in there that feeds into my brain to get rid of the rest of my guns.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's no, I'm not going to say what I was going to say because I don't mean it, and I don't want to. I don't want to say.
I see things I don't mean all the time. It's fun.
I know, but
and then I go home later and I feel guilty. I'm like, ugh. Yeah. It's like, But yeah, so we'll get past death now, and a lot of cool things coming up in the entertainment verse. A lot of good comedy specials and all that. Of course, again, Myq Kaplan's Myq Kaplan.
Go check that out. I did buy his album. I didn't pretend that I bought it and say, oh yeah, it was great, and find a couple of clips or something like that. I did purchase the album. It is a worthy purchase, and go and check it out.
I'm going to get it myself. I promise. I don't listen to a lot of things, but I feel like I should purchase his album and I will listen to it.
Yeah. Yeah. He
was funny. He seems like a very smart, funny. Like he was very intellectual.
Oh, he's super sharp. And that's the thing. And we discussed this a little bit, so I don't want to ruin anything, but we discussed kind of the speed at which he speaks and gets his jokes out, combined with how smart he is. And like it's unapologetic. It's kind of a not an attitude, not a smugness anywhere about it.
He seems very aware.
Yeah, he's very aware, but it's kind of like I'm going to go at this speed, and you can keep up with me and enjoy it. Or if you don't and you miss some stuff, I can accept that too. And like it's a real. I respect the hell out of it.
It's funny because I didn't say it with him. Because I was like, me too, but I get it all the time where people are like, you're talking so fast that I can't. And I'm like, that's your fucking problem.
Yeah. And it's like, and it's all racial slurs. Stop.
Yes.
No, that therein lies the difference. But sometimes I'm talking really fast and then I buffer in real time. I'll be going.
You can see the thing going in a circle, right? Damn this internet.
Yeah, I can go for a long time. I think what I do more than anything, though, being, I don't want to say quick-witted because that would be conceited of me to say it myself. Could you say it for me, please?
You're very quick-witted.
Thank you very much. And being that,
did you hear that money just exchanged into my hand?
I Venmo'd him some cash.
It was actually just food stamps.
Yeah, we don't handle bills anymore because of
food stamps in the States still, or is it like electronic food stamps?
I think it's a card now.
That's a card.
It's a card.
That makes sense.
They're electronic food stamps. They're little teeny tiny tasers.
Yeah, that was probably on your phone, even though you can't afford groceries. Food. Everybody, they still get an Apple.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, you could be fine. No, I've seen people use food service cards and stuff when I've been over the river and stuff like that. That's what we say in Canada is over the river. And that makes no sense to somebody like if you're listening out in the border, like in Manitoba, Minnesota, kind of whatever, they don't have a river that you cross. It's just like a land crossing, right? So it doesn't mean
river.
It doesn't mean anything to them. It's very, very local and specific. So for the 3 people who live in this area who listen, thanks.
They can just look at a map. Across the old pond there.
That's
not
worth
the
it.
pond. That's going to Britain.
No, because
we're talking over the river.
If you are looking for us, though, we are the southern part of Ontario. We are the part of Canada's penis that is penetrating into the United States through Michigan, Pennsylvania, and New York. So you got
we're
that
pretty close up in Thunder Bay too. We're getting pretty close.
Thunder Bay is like the balls resting on top.
Exactly. It's like the balls that swing past every now and then as it,
Yeah. And Lake Superior is the swamp ass.
Man, I threw up so bad at Lake Superior. Oh my God.
Really? We just I think we just analogied the shit out of our area. Like everybody calls Florida a penis, but it's not. It's just hanging there dead. I guess because it's an old penis, because it's all old people, right?
Out there mowing its lawn. Testicles hanging out of the shorts.
What I'm picturing right now is Mike listening to this and going, "Oh, good, this is my lead-in." Jesus Christ. I do apologize for us being us. I should have given you a better clue of what we were before you agreed to do the show. A little more very useless, useless to you guys, but very useful to me, housekeeping, is we are moving our services. In fact, by the time this episode comes out, our services will have moved to Libsyn from SoundCloud. Shouldn't mean a lot to you if you're subscribed on anywhere like Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, anything like that. You should be uninterrupted, but if for some reason you don't get an episode on a Friday, go and check. I will have on our Twitter and on our website, the link to the new location for all of that, just in case your service does get interrupted for us. So yeah, so that's that. And we're just moving our hosting, and if that affects somebody, I apologize. But
to where?
Libsyn.
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 Ooh, I thought it was O-N. Good. It's glad you said that.
Yes. But I've got to deal with a Portuguese website that's really, I
very close.
Yes.
Too close,
and
actually.
I know that's Lisbon. I'm just being a dick. But
that's. Don't explain it.
No, Again, I'm very.
Okay, I got one for you.
No, I'm very self-conscious of somebody going because I do that all the time. Where you'll read somebody's tweet, and it's the YOUR kind of thing, and I'm like, "Hey, dipshit, it's this," and it's just an honest mistake. But this time, I was just playing. It was a play on words that I didn't want to be corrected on. So that's.
Hey, dipshit.
Yeah, I get called dipshit enough in my life. I don't need it from the internet.
I know, right?
So what was the thing you got from me?
It's a tail.
Oh, what kind of a tail? Please be right. Please be right. Please be right.
This has
No, it's good. Okay, try again.
It's a
Tales from the Sea.
5th time's the charm,
exactly.
baby.
Okay, so I'm on the boat.
Yes.
It's a ferry boat. It's a really tiny, rockety thing.
Full of disease.
We're on the boat. We're docked inland. I ordered a pizza. A big, huge 32 square slice, king size pizza.
How's that diet going?
To be ordered, great. To be ordered by the boat, and it had to be delivered between 5:30 and 6. Okay, so the guy in the dock, Dan Cini, wonderful guy.
Love him.
Brother of the
Naming
boss.
names.
Brother of the boss, Paul Manwini, and he has got this pizza for us. Okay, so it's on its way.
Yeah.
We get in. I'm like, we're getting cars in and off, and I'm like, fuck, there's no pizza guy here yet. And I'm like, I'm starting to get nervous because I'm like, if it's time to go, we got to go. There's no waiting for this pizza.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the boss, the captain, runs down. He only runs down when he's like freaking out about like we're 1 second late from leaving.
Yeah.
He runs down. He's like, we're fucking going. He's like, all right. Like he's in a state. He's like, we're going right now. We got to go. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, there's no pizza. I'm like, I don't know where this pizza guy is. I'm like, he's going to go up there. He's going to honk the horn. Once he honks the horn, I'm just praying the pizza doesn't show up at all.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, this is going to complicate way too many matters. He's like, where's the goddamn linesman over the radio? The guy that lets go, Dancini.
Yeah.
Suddenly I hear, Todd over the radio. And I'm like, oh my God, here he comes. It's like the president's limo ride, you know, like whatever you fucking call it, they're all in there.
The motorcade.
The motorcade.
Yeah.
And they's got the pizza. And he honks the horn, and I have to raise the ramp. And he's looking out the window, man. He's like, there's a pizza guy right there. And he's like, let's go. And I'm like, fuck. And so I'm raising the ramp, and the wind is 20 Ks coming at us. So the boat is off the dock.
Yeah.
They run over with the pizza.
Yeah.
Okay, first it's the lady, Joanne Beatles. She's got purple hair.
Yes.
Wonderful woman. They run to the side of the dock right next to me, and they've got this huge pizza. And he's like, just reach. He's like, just reach for the pizza. And he's panicking because he doesn't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm supposed to pay for it. And I'm like, I'm not reaching. I'm going to fall right into the drink. He's like, I'm going to throw it. I'm going to throw the pizza. And he goes like he's going to frisbee the huge pizza at me. And I'm like, don't fucking frisbee the pizza at me. And there's guys behind the gate going like, don't throw the pizza, Dan. Don't throw the pizza. And I'm like, oh my God. And he's just going to go to throw it. And then Joanne like grabs it and stops him from throwing the pizza. And I'm like, because I knew if he threw the pizza, it's like 20 wind. It's going to go right in the drink. It's going to flip. I'm not going to grab it.
Yeah.
And I'm like so pissed off. All I needed was an extra arm length.
Yeah.
And I could have fucking grabbed this pizza. And I go upstairs and we're leaving and I'm mad. And the captain's like, we could have left on time. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, we left 10 minutes early. And I'm like, what? Because he honked the horn. I'm thinking this is the actual time. So he caught us 10 minutes early. And then when we're in the wheelhouse, he's like, you know what? In hindsight, we could have stayed. And I was like, I will stab you in the throat.
That is the best story I've ever heard that ended in no pizza.
It was like the perfect shitstorm, domino mousetrap of not getting a pizza.
Oh, God,
It was heartbreaking. Everyone was angry on all sides except for the captain.
Yeah.
Who was like, I had no idea there was a pizza-related mishap on the dock. And I was like, yes, you fucking did. Like, you son of a bitch.
I tattooed it on your goddamn arm.
Oh, yeah, he recently broke his orbital bone, and I was like, right in your orbital bone.
Oh, God, that's not great.
So what?
Orbital
You
bone?
ruined my pizza. I was bringing this pizza to be a hero.
Why are you yelling at me?
Pizza hero.
You know I love pizza. In fact, like we've eaten pizza together.
And I was going to bring it to this woman who's going to end up being my wife one day. And there was no Mother's Day pizza.
Yeah.
We had to eat grilled cheese sandwiches, which were still pretty good.
Well, so you still got cheese on a bread stuff. So I mean,
Yeah.
you
dunk it in marinara when I'm like fucking homeless.
you can do that. People do that.
That sounds pretty good, actually.
It's not bad.
Actually sounds pretty good. when
There's a lot of places you can order grilled cheese or something, and they'll
The
give
best was just Dancini trying to frisbee this huge pizza.
You should have let it happen.
Oh man, I couldn't. I was like, because then nobody's gonna get pizza.
That to me is funnier than that guy still having a pizza.
And he was so mad. They said they've never seen him madder. He's like, I'll just fucking freeze some of it. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, you can freeze pizza?
Sure you can.
And then when I went home, my mom was like, I have pizza in the freezer. And I was like, that's. And then I punched her in the orbital bone.
Hers wasn't broken yet. Oh God, that is fantastic. Well, whenever Todd gives a Tales from the Sea, I have to give a
Tales from the desk.
So when I do work on site now, I work from home most of the time. But when I work on site, we're all like isolated and stuff like that. And so I was, just sitting in a room by myself, and graphics didn't work for a little bit, but we got them going.
That is awesome.
Woohoo! But I'll tell you, I didn't. My story also doesn't end in pizza, but it ended with some of the best goddamn leftovers. Every single night was me eating some random leftovers. I made some fish and chips the one night, so I brought it all. And
I thought you meant like from the fridge work. You're like, hey Don, nice lunch.
That stuff would probably have been left over from friggin' March, and it's got like legs
it's
and
like
shit.
green.
But I owe an apology to my work people too, because I've ordered KFC a couple times, and it keeps coming with sides that I don't eat.
What?
Like I don't eat coleslaw.
Hey, of course, you change it for gravy or something.
Well, no, it was because I already had gravy, but it comes with two specific sides, and I was like, ooh, Carrie likes coleslaw in their potato salad, so I ordered those ones.
Right.
I was like, I'll bring them home to her, and I keep leaving them in the fridge. And then I'm gone for 2 weeks because I'm working from home. So it's like...
I got a feeling those aren't very good anymore.
No.
Just a random thought.
But you know what they also are? Not my problem. So I don't want to take up any more time. I think it is time to get to our guest.
I agree.
You know this man from... Last Comic Standing, America's Got Talent, appearances on Conan and Letterman, all over the place.
His new one, A.K.A.
Yeah, his new album, A.K.A, is out now. You can also listen to his podcast, Broccoli and Ice Cream, wherever. I assume wherever you listen to this podcast, you can find his podcast and you'll find more listeners there. But that's neither here nor there, and it's definitely not bitterness because the guy deserves it.
Vegan broccoli, regular ice cream.
I didn't even think about that.
Right? Come on.
But no, that's all good.
It's probably vegan ice cream.
It's probably, it'll be fine.
I wanted to talk to you about being a vegan, but we were running out of time because I'm such an animal lover. I'm not kidding you. I've met chickens on this island that I work at, and I love them. And I wish to God that I could just get it together and be a vegan.
Yeah.
At least a vegetarian, because I love the animals so much. Yeah. But I'm stuck in this meat-eating rut. I don't eat red meat. Yeah, that's not true. Sometimes I have hamburger.
As long as you don't count hamburgers or steak as red meat, I don't eat it.
I rarely eat red meat, rarely eat pork. Yeah. But still, I'm a
I
hypocrite.
eat red meat rarely. Because it's rare.
But I wanted to ask him how long he's been a vegetarian, what started.
Vegan,
like, did your father bring you to the slaughterhouse? This is where we get our double beef. He's like, oh my Lord.
This is the end of this.
Yeah.
No.
He's a great guy, though. You should listen to his comedy. He's very smart.
Yeah. If you haven't heard it before.
Very woke.
If you haven't heard it before, he is sharp as a tack. He's so funny. And he was very, very kind to spend a little bit of time with us. And you'll hear Todd's one question about him being a vegan, and it was a home run. Okay, guys, let's listen to our interview with Myq Kaplan. All right, so we are here with the self-proclaimed kombucha of comedy, Myq Kaplan.
Thank you for listening to my comedy and showing me that is what you did. I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
No problem. So how are you doing today, sir? With everything that's going on, you're locked up like everybody else is. How are you feeling? How are you surviving?
Thank you for asking. I have been maybe more active in ways like with podcasts and streaming shows and keeping in touch via various electronic means with loved ones, friends, comedians, fellow human beings. So I feel like, especially in the weeks leading up to my album's release, which came out last week, I've been, taking rounds on like different friends and strangers shows. And so like today, for example, like you asked how I am today, and I'm going to say, I guess, what I am today, which is busy. And I'm glad to be busy, glad to have the capacity, glad that there are people who want to talk to me and that are enjoyable to talk to and commune with in these ways and share. Like, I think I started at 2 p.m. I don't even remember. I have to go backward now because after this, I am going to perform let's say stand up. I'll perform comedy. I'll talk into my computer for 10 or 15 minutes on a show, and then I'll talk on a radio show that a friend has at Sirius. And right before this, I was spending a little time with my girlfriend, but before that, I was doing a podcast called Weed and Grub, and that was a lot of fun. And then before that one, honestly, I only remember 2 podcasts forward and 2 podcasts back, but there have been a couple more things. So it's been a nice. Oh, I remember I talked to my mom today, and she was like, "What did you do?" Oh yeah, just a younger comic has a podcast where he invites people who've been doing comedy longer to come on and talk about comedy, and so I did that for an hour and a half earlier today, and it's I mean, any given day looks like a day could look like, in the before times. If I didn't have travel, if I didn't have a show to go out to, I might go out for a walk, which I might still do sometimes. But otherwise I might, read, write, listen to music, listen to a podcast, watch a thing, talk with my girlfriend, write emails or music or comedy. Oh my, and so it's been a lot of that. It's just like, oh, normally then, okay, let's break this up with, no, breaking this up. Just more. Let's break some of this up with more of this.
You've been sitting in front of a computer for days.
Yeah, I mean, weeks, arguably.
You're wearing a diaper like old ladies at the casino.
Sometimes up until the past couple days, I've been putting on pants, like to go to even work at, like, quote unquote work at my computer, because it felt like psychologically reasonable. Like, look at this, like the light changes outside, the clothes change inside. Mm-hmm. I certainly have been, I would say, showering like one day more infrequently than not, like if in the past I would take a shower every 2 days, it could be every one day, because I'm important to keep clean. I'm certainly, like, once in a while my girlfriend and I will like look down or smell down at ourselves and be like, it seems like it might be time for a shower.
It's called COVID quarantine penis. Oh. You haven't showered in days. You go to the bathroom, you pull your pants down, and you're like, holy shit, it smells like the mummy's fart.
It's something to think about, I guess.
It's called quarantine penis.
Well, I think that everyone has that experience, regardless of whether they have a penis or not. That is what it's called, named by a penis haver, I presume. Yeah. I sincerely, I'll usually smell like something that's closer to the top, closer to my nose. Like, I'm not like the armpit is really what gets me. It's like, it doesn't smell even bad either. Just like we both, my girlfriend and I, like how we smell. Like when we smell the smells that represent who we are, before you've covered it up or washed it away with soap or deodorant or what have you. So we're just like, oh, that's like, it's like a lot of you. And we're like, oh, is this, am I too much me right now? Like I'm gonna go make it a little less me. I'll be back and you won't even know that I'm me.
Yeah, exactly. I will be Zest. Or
Zestfully clean.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll be Dr. Bronner.
That works perfectly.
Myq is a vegan. He's probably got some crazy soap that smells like fake cheese.
I feel like you might not have your finger on the exact pulse of the vegan community, but
none.
I do know that you do have your finger on your own pulse, and that is nice. It's good to know yourself. I mean, really, we only know ourselves. You can't know what's going on internally with another person. So anything that you say only reveals things about yourself.
It's not going to stop Todd from taking big swings.
No, it's not. No, it is not.
But yeah, so you said you've been doing a lot of stuff. Obviously, you've been connecting with a lot of people and doing comedy in your own way and stuff. Coming up with new material in a bubble like this, do you find that it motivates you because you're there and you're able to do it, or is it hurting because you're not kind of out in the community and maybe experiencing the things that would be amused for you?
It has, for me, been I think a more creative time, or at least a similarly creative time, like where there's some shows that when I would go out and perform in front of people in a building that is not my home, some of my favorite things to do is, like, if it's a nice, receptive audience, to riff and experiment and discover new things on stage in the moment. And like sometimes if an audience is into that, then you keep doing it. Sometimes if an audience is not into that, then maybe like, oh, well, I'll get into more prepared bits. Because that's what it seems like. That's what you are. Okay, I'll
do you
like this? If they don't like that, then I'll go into that's one of my prepared bits. And I'm like, oh, that's just, like, I don't have any pets, so I got to make the noises of a pet sometimes, make it feel like my girlfriend and I have some company. We do have a cat that visits us, but sincerely, during this time, like, while some comedians, it makes sense. when people are like, it's hard to do it without the audience reaction, which is a separate question of having different experiences. Like, number one, this is a different experience. So there are things that are arising in these times that are noteworthy. I don't have to go out of my house. I can go into my head, into my life, into this experience. Like, a lot of people might be writing similar bits, but we're all different people experiencing the world through our own filters. So I have written things, I have come up with things, I have riffed things. And on the idea that, how do you know if something works if you're not if you don't have an audience that's responding to it the same as a live audience would? Well, in this situation, if I tell a joke, if I were to tell an audience, a muted audience, that my best joke or one of my definitely works jokes, then I wouldn't hear the laughter that joke normally gets. So why not just make up something new, be in the moment, and have that get the exact same amount of laughter that my best joke would get? So I have found that it is, like, some people might see it as a constraint, but sometimes constraints lead you to rise to meet, to expand within that constraint. And so I have been fortunate. I'm grateful that has been my experience so far.
Would you, when doing new material, do you go to a specific place to try it out? Or?
Good question. You mean in the before times when?
Right.
Yes. There's a bunch of places that, like, I started out in Boston and I live in New York now. And I would go back to Boston. I moved from Boston to New York in 2008. And since then, for at least the last some number of years, there's the place that I started is called the Comedy Studio. It's like, my home club. I feel very comfortable there. When I'm there, I feel like, anything. They have very warm audiences. They know what to expect. They love comedy. That's a place that I love going and trying new things. And there's a place called Great Scott that has a show called The Gas that I've probably done several times a year for the last several years, that a buddy of mine, Rob Crean, runs there, that they announced that they are not going to exist anymore. I think they've been there for 44 years, but they announced they're not going to exist. There's a petition to hopefully make it. I don't know how the petition works, but like, hey, please don't do that, whoever is doing it. But I hope I signed it. I'm like, please keep being the thing that I love. Yeah. But I recorded one album there. I've had so many wonderful shows where I feel like people are coming there to see me. That it's not like a comedy club where it could be, oh, who's here this weekend? Oh, let's go on date night. Oh, maybe it's the bachelor party, whatever it is. Like, and sometimes there's an unknown quantity of, like, they don't know you, you don't know them. But there are some clubs that do I think a good job of, matching up, being like, hey, here's who's here this weekend, or my fans come out. But certainly there's some cities with independent venues where, like, a place called Motor Co. in Durham, North Carolina is a wonderful place that I've gone a few times, and I always feel very comfortable, like, riffing. Like, if I'm doing an hour or more, I'm doing, like, potentially some prepared material and some, being open to what's going to happen in the moment. Like, when I go to The Gas, when I go to Great Scott in Boston, that's a place where I have things that are potentially planned to do if need be, but in the moment, if I can start and follow some ideas, some new stories, some riffs, some presence in the moment, some flow, state, action, then I'll do that as much as I can, as often as I can, like, in between. Like, it might end up, I did a show at the Nowhere Comedy Club, which is a quarantine arisen business, and it was great. They curated an audience so that you do hear some people laughing at some of the times, but still it's still, you're in your room by yourself. Or I have my girlfriend, she laughs, so all my jokes are skewing towards the topic of I love my girlfriend, and
she better laugh.
But
she better laugh.
Well, I don't want her pity. I want her honesty.
You are the opposite of me. If my wife is in the room and I'm doing something, all I see is just sheer pity. It's like, oh, you're talking to the comedian today? You must feel terrible about yourself.
Well, who can say? I mean, I don't want to say that she's just reflecting what's inside herself. Yeah. Maybe she feels terrible about you talking to me. Who can? I can't. I'm not inside your experience nor hers. And only you. You probably know each other pretty well. Yeah. So I accept your assessment.
She's a mail order bride. Yeah. They don't know each other.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah.
But I did the show the other night, and it was fantastic. I just loved. I felt like in an hour, I had some jokes planned, and I planned to do, maybe I had like a list of, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 ideas to possibly look at and try and explore like newer things like in these moments. But it also was just such a warm, welcoming, like some of the audiences now are not desperate, not thirsty, but they're like, they want comedy. They maybe need comedy. They're like, please, like we want something, please offer us something. And so I feel like that's the best way, compared to sometimes you go to a comedy show in the before times and you have an audience member who's like, this better be funny. Like, oh, for you, it might not be, but the person who says like, this is going to be great, I'm really excited to see it, whether they know you or not, or they're just like optimistic and open to receiving. So I feel like there are a lot more people in these Zoom comedy shows that are like if they're there, they're like, oh God, I don't know what is happening, but will this be something? Please, I hope that will this be? Can you make this something? And by like both people believing in it, it springs to life at least a little bit.
Nice.
An hour of comedy seems like a very arduous, tiring thing.
Like to put that together, right?
Yeah, like holy shit.
You mean just in general,
yeah.
To do comedy for an hour? Well, I didn't start out doing it. The first time I performed, I probably did 5 minutes, and that seemed arduous at the time. I do remember one time starting out in Boston. There was a club called the Comedy Connection. They had an amateur night every Monday. You could call up and they put you on in a few weeks or a few months or a few years or never. And it eventually became a bringer show. But in the beginning, it was just you would call and they put you on. And it was sort of communicated. There was no light. There was no lighting system in Boston. That is to say, like to let you know that your set was a minute from over. Like there were lights in the place, there were lights on the stage, but you had to keep track of your own time. That was a very Boston thing when I was starting out. Like the Comedy Studio now has a light, but it used to be they didn't. And then like some acts would come up from New York expecting a light, and then they'd do 17 minutes in a 7-minute set, and they'd be like, okay, we're gonna get a light here. But I remember it was communicated to me by like the older comedians, the wise comedy elders of Boston. They were like, you do your time. You have a watch, you have a timer, just keep track of it. Know how long your set is, know how long you're supposed to do. Be respectful to the other comedians. Don't go over your time. And so I remember being very cognizant of that. One of my first times at this comedy club doing the amateur night. And I was like, 5 minutes, I have it. I ran through it at home. 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes. I got it. Pausing for last 5 minutes. I did it. I got off stage. It was 3 minutes and 53 seconds. I like sped through it. And the booker called me over and he was like, hey, you did a good job. You went under a minute, and you can't do that either. Because maybe the host is in the bathroom. Who knows? It's like the other way can't be. It's got to be exactly right, Goldilocks style. Be like, this is too long. This is too short. And so I would say in the beginning, it was just like, oh, you just want to have any jokes. I assume you may understand that idea that you want to have something. Like before you ever start, you have nothing. Mm-hmm. And then the next day, it's almost exactly the same. It's slightly different. You're like, 1 is very close to 0 on a scale of 0 to infinity. Like 1 is a little better than 0. Yeah. Then you have, 1 joke, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Oh, I got 15 minutes of jokes. Then you come across a crowd. You're like, oh, actually, I think most of those didn't work. So I got back to 2 minutes. Okay, but 2 really good minutes. And then you keep doing that. You got another 15, I got 20. Eventually, like, I could do 30. Okay, great. And then you come across a crowd that you're like, okay, back to 7 minutes. Okay, coming up. It's just like climbing up. It's 2 steps forward, 7 steps back, 3 steps, and eventually, at every point of the game, I eventually was asked to headline, I think it was for like a high school summer program at a college nearby. And they were like, do an hour. And I wrote down, I knew I had an hour of jokes. I had done like many different 10-minute sets, 20-minute sets, some 30-minute sets. I was like, I have it, but I couldn't remember it at the time. I'd never done it. How could I do it? Because how do you do something you've never done? Mm-hmm. And so I grouped them in order. Like I had a chunk about relationships, a chunk about TV, a chunk about movies, a chunk about being vegan, a chunk about food, a chunk about being Jewish, a chunk about like all these different things. And then I was like, tried to put them in order. And I'm like, okay, food, movies, Jews, movies goes to Jews. Okay. And I had I sort of arranged it as a syllabus, and I was like, okay, this is the order we're going to do things in. I brought the paper on, like either had it on a stool or had it in my pocket. And I just, in each segment, I had maybe 20 jokes in each topic, like 20 jokes about food. And I knew what order they went in because I would do them. I could remember 10 minutes of jokes, and then I could remember another 10 minutes. It's like, through the course of your life, you've probably memorized an hour's worth of songs. If somebody asked you to what are your favorite songs? What songs do you know all the lyrics to? Just start saying them. Like if you have a favorite band or a favorite something, then you start doing it. And then like, oh yeah, I could talk for an hour. So you're basically, as a comedian, I felt like I was memorizing my own songs, which you're sort of memorizing them as you're creating them, because you're creating them and learning them at the same time and figuring out how they work. And eventually, like, that I think that first hour I did was probably in like 2005-ish, started in 2002, so 2005-ish, talked for an hour and it went well. And I had this paper that I was every once in a while. I think it was just nice to have it. I think I might have referred to it like twice or three times to be like, which one? Because if I forgot one thing, then I skipped to the end and I'm like, oh, well, that's it. It was only 3 minutes. And I forgot. I went from the joke number 1 to joke number infinity. But eventually, I feel like I recorded my first album 7 years into doing comedy, 2002 through 2009. And I built up in that point. At least, I think the set I did was probably 50 minutes, something like that. I did the best 50 minutes of jokes that I had been, honing and crafting and putting together. And I was like, this is the most that there were some jokes that might not have made it, but I'm like, this is basically all the good jokes that I have. And then over the course of time, I would go out and start headlining and bring that hour. And every once in a while, like, I don't know if you're familiar with Theseus's ship, the idea that Theseus's ship was out to sea and they had to replace one of the planks, and they replaced one of the planks, and that's still Theseus's ship, of course, just with one new plank. Then they replace another plank and another plank. And while they're out to sea, they end up replacing every single plank on the ship. Then they come back to shore. It's still Theseus's ship. They just did one at a time. One at a time. It's still the same ship, but it's made of all different planks. They get back to shore, and then they take all the old planks and they build the ship that was Theseus's ship. Now they have 2 ships that are made out of totally separate planks that at one time or another were each Theseus's ship. And that's what a lot of comedians do with their act. That's what Carlin, over the course of years, you saw Carlin like in 1992, and then you saw him in 1993, it would be probably half the same as when you saw it in 92, because he was replacing it bit by bit. And then 94, it's half the same as 93, but completely different from 92. Maybe it would be like a 2.5-year cycle, whatever the cycle was, maybe 3, maybe 1, but you just little by little take one out, put one in. Some people might like throw it all out and start from scratch, just go out and go to open mics and be like, now I've got 1 minute, now I've got 5 minutes, now I've got 10. But since you've done that before, it becomes, you're creating something new, but creating something new for the first time is the hardest thing. Because after you've created something new once, then at least you know that you have the capacity to create something new. And so once I had done comedy for an hour, then I know that I can do comedy for an hour. And then ever since that, now I could probably do comedy. But I mean, I have created probably more than 6+ hours of comedy. I don't remember it all right now. But if I ever needed to, if somebody was like gun to the head, do all the comedy that you ever could, I'm like, am I allowed to riff? Because then I'm okay,
You said there's like the replacing of planks, replenishing the material with new material. Is there a section of time that's too long? Like it's been 5 years, you're telling 75% of the same jokes. Is that unacceptable?
Everyone gets to decide their own way. In fact, Seinfeld, I believe, was talked about this on this HBO special, like Talking Funny, with other comedians who were more into like turning over new material every year, every 2 years. And they asked Seinfeld, like, how often do you turn over your new material? Because, like, he made a big deal in the movie Comedian of, getting rid of his old act. He did I'm Telling You for the Last Time.
I saw that one.
Started from scratch and started building a whole new ship. And then he got it. But then he said in this special that he's like, I feel like every year maybe I write and replace 15% of the thing that I had last year. So for him, you could have seen him 10 years ago and see him this year, and maybe it's half the same. Maybe it's 25% the same. Maybe it's 75% the same. Like the special that he just put out is a lot of new stuff, but also has some classic bits that maybe he never recorded because he hasn't put out a special in 20 years. For the past 20 years, he's been honing this one hour that, he probably has several hours of material, or who knows how many, maybe many hours. Like he writes all the time, but he's very meticulous and cares very specific. Like there's a thing that I heard about called rapid prototyping once, which is about the way that I heard it presented was, imagine you're in a pottery class, or they did this for real, that there was a pottery class. Half the class was told, make one pot the whole time and make it perfect. And the other half of the class was told, make as many pots as you can in the same amount of time. And so the first pots those guys were making were like horrible, like the worst. But they eventually got good at making pots. And eventually the pots in that group ended up better consistently than the one perfect one that person was trying to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that this analogy like translates as a perfect parallel, but it does seem like Seinfeld has been working on making his pot the perfect, and also himself the perfect potter of his pot. Whereas someone else who, like a lot of other comedians who are going out every couple years, every year, several years, having a new hour, like Carlin did, let's say. Carlin had a new hour, and he thought that he got better and better. I think he said that the age at which he felt he had finally gotten it, the age that he felt he was really good, was 50, something like that. He started, like, he had a 50-year career. He'd been doing it maybe 20 or 30 years before he was like, I got it. And then there was maybe 20 more years of him getting it, putting out special after special where he's like, I am the potter of this perfect pot. Yeah. For myself, I don't think there's a should about it, but it just has happened that I recorded my first album in 2009. I recorded my next one in 2012, then one in 2013, then one in 2016, one in 2017, and one in 2019. So I would say the longest it's been is 3 years. But in that time, I've also continued to be building up the next hour, which is why it went from 2009 to 2012 and then 2013, because the album that I recorded in 2012, I recorded like an hour and 20 minutes probably, but only made the album in 45 minutes, then took that half hour and then had a bunch of new stuff that came out in the next year, and then made that new hour out of some older stuff and some newer stuff.
Some of the B-sides.
Everyone else, it was, for everyone else, it was all A-sides because
right, exactly.
They didn't know.
It's like when they get a musical artist, they make, 20 tunes, they come up with 12, 13, and then 5 of them end up on the next album.
Yeah.
Or years later, when everybody's like, hey, you're not making music like you did. And they're like, well, look at this. 5 old ones.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My favorite thing about you is how rapid fire your stuff is. Like, you put out jokes with like Eminem lyric speeds.
Oh,
and
very kind.
But what I wanted to know is when you're workshopping something like that, because I remember, and you mentioned on your album too, somebody's review of you being, it may have been funny, he talks fast and I'm dumb, is like, how do you separate the people who are obviously reacting really well to it, and like if you're getting a crowd, you're like, am I just going too fast for them? Are they not catching up to me at the moment? Or is this something that I need to be working on because they're not laughing?
That's a fine question that I feel like I thought about it more when I was starting and people were telling me that I was talking too fast, and more, I think, honestly, and I want to remember this because I haven't put it like this exactly, but I think the main issue wasn't that I was talking too fast, but I was talking too unfunny. And they were like, maybe if you slow down, then some of the funny will rise up. And now I feel like I have a friend, Dan Crone, who's a comic in Boston, and he told me this the other day, similar. When he started out, people would always tell him, like, slow down, you got to slow down. And he talked to one of the guy who actually ran, who was the host of the open mic, was one of the best, like beloved, amazing, hilarious headliners, Kevin Knox, rest in peace, died sometime a decade to a decade and a half ago. I forget exactly when, but he was an amazing comedian. He was so rapid fire, and he was like the wild man of Boston comedy, they called him. And when Dan Crone went to him and said, everyone's telling me that I should talk slower, and Kevin said, I don't think so. I think you should talk faster. And that wasn't true either, but he was the main point. He was sort of like a Zen master, a Zen faster master, and he was essentially saying, like, be yourself. You are the one who gets to decide, like, how often you put out albums, when a joke is done, when a set is done, how fast you go. And for me, I do talk faster than some people. Yeah. And there may be times when some jokes are slower than others. I might slow down, like in this conversation right now. Yeah. I might breathe every once in a while. But now I'm more mindful about how it is going and how it is received, because my goal is always for people to hear what I'm saying, understand it, take it in, and respond with laughter because it is funny. That is the goal. So if I listen back and I find that I can't understand what I'm saying, I'll be like, oh, maybe slow that one down a smidge. But some of it, I mean, is about how the joke goes, like depends. Like Seinfeld once said, you know, the telling a joke is like getting an audience to leap off a cliff. Like that's where the setup is, and you want them to land where the punchline is at the other side. And it needs to be the exact right distance, because if it's too close, it's not exciting and they won't laugh because they could see it coming. If it's too far, then they won't make it because they can't even get there. So it has to be the exact right distance. And I feel that there's a component of how I am talking, how fast I am talking, like how I am enunciating, how I am saying what I'm saying to get across what I'm getting across, that is a part of audiences understanding. And there certainly are people, I've had people come up to me after shows and say, I didn't understand half of what you were saying, but I loved it. And there are sometimes people that are like, I need to get that as an album and listen back. Like, I'm glad, like in these times, a lot of comedians are pausing for laughs. For me, you might have to rewind for laughs sometimes, but
that's the best. That's like when you're watching a movie and it's a really funny movie, you know, like a Zucker Brothers, the jokes are just flying and you're laughing for so long that you have to go back to catch the other stuff. I don't think that's a problem.
I just watched a couple of short videos by Ryan O'Flanagan, and they are so great. And my girlfriend and I were watching them. We're like, he's saying a funny thing, you know, every 3 seconds. And if you laugh at one, you miss the next. And that's it. It is like Eminem lyrics. It's like, listen, like I can't listen to an Eminem song for the first time, certainly, unless even if I'm looking at the lyrics, be like, you can't get everything because there's so many levels and layers and double entendres. And I do like, you know, recording an album that is rich with the as close as I can get to that as I can.
Yeah.
When you record an album, is it live?
Almost all the time, that is how a stand-up album is recorded. I think the only exception I know about, and it might not even be that it was recorded this way, but Bob Newhart famously did these sort of more character pieces where he was on the phone with somebody who wasn't really there, but he would be having one half of a phone conversation, and those would be his bits. And he recorded those, I believe, with no audience, and then got a record deal, and I think did then record them with an audience. But yeah, stand-up comedy happens, other than during quarantine, it almost certainly requires or certainly desires a live audience to respond. So yeah, it's very rare to have a studio comedy album, unless it's a music album.
Yeah. Did you do more? Was it a multiple show record that was pieced together, or was it all in one show for this?
This most recent album, A.K.A, we recorded 4 shows, and there might be, I don't know if every show is represented. There might be one that's not, but definitely at least 3 of the 4 shows. Like, there's probably one that had most of what we wanted. I think there were 2 main shows, probably like the Friday, I forget which show was on Friday, but the Saturday early show and one of the Friday shows were like, this is like the bulk of what will be the album. Just kind of being like, oh, I said everything the way that I wanted here, and the audience responded the way that I wanted here. So that is the version that we're using. But yes, it was mostly a couple shows with some of a third.
Yeah. So I saw on your Twitter that you saw some tweets from people who were going to that recording. It was back in December, I guess it was. And saying you got to
actually had gone to the recording, which was in May.
Oh,
and in December, he was reporting on the best comedy shows that he'd seen that year. So he was recommending the show that he had seen, which was my album recording, and saying to get it when it came out, and that's why I retweeted it when it came out.
And I did get it, and it was a fantastic album.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say too, because you took that to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, right? That's where that started. What is that festival like? Because I've heard a lot of things about that one specifically. And did you bring that there for like a specific reason? Did this material kind of speak to Edinburgh, or was that just something you were doing and you were just bringing your hour there?
Great question. I mean, the festival is amazing, fantastic. Like if you can go, if it happens, if it's safe and healthy, like it's not happening this year. My plan was to go back this year, and now my plan will be to go back next year. The next year that it is possible, safe, and healthy to go. Yeah. Because as an experience, just as a festival, it's the biggest, I think, of its kind in the world. Like there's comedy, magic, music, dance, storytelling, like interactive experiences, like buskers. Like there's 4 4,000 to 6,000 shows a day. I think it's unbelievable. And so I would see several shows a day. I would do my show every day. And I had heard about it. I had friends who had gone to it, and I'd been told I'd never performed in the UK before, but I was told that like my sensibility might go over well there. And I liked the idea of going to the festival. And this was the first hour, I would say, that you can go there and just do an hour of stand up. And some people do that, but I'd say the UK and Australian and European and other outside of American tradition of performing is like more one-man show style, like what Mike Birbiglia does here, which is he started with, an hour of jokes. And then since then it's been like curated, well-themed narrative one-man shows. And that's what people are doing more outside of America. Yeah. But like America's like stand up, just joke. Ooh, a guy who's telling a story. So there's like more storytellers and more storytelling there. And it's not that this album is explicitly a story per se, but it is more like structurally cohesive and thematically connected than any album or hour or special that I've done before. So I was like, I feel like this is the hour that I was proudest of and happiest with at the time. And I like the idea of going to Edinburgh and trying it because I've heard great things about it. So it was sort of a confluence of those events that brought me there with it, and I feel really good about it.
How does you've had CDs made? You've got a Netflix special.
I did have a special that was on Netflix from 2014 to 2017, and now that special is on Amazon.
So how does that come about? Like, does Mr. Netflix call you? I feel like if Mr. Netflix called you, he sounds like when
Steve Netflix the third.
Yeah, like when you text a landline. And it's terrifying.
Oh, sure.
He's like, hello, it's Mr. Netflix. Make a special.
Your question is very good. And the answer is yes, exactly as you imagined. I mean, in today's day, where Netflix is producing their own specials, I imagine it is something of the sort. Either you as a comedian, your management, somebody that you're working with speaks to Netflix, or they call you, or you call them, and then it is arranged as such. When I did it, Netflix was not producing their own specials, so it was actually that I made the album that I recorded in 2012 that I came up with like an hour and 20 minutes of. Then we submitted that to like Comedy Central because they were the ones that were the most prominently creating our specials in that day and age. And they were like, we're not going to make this a special, but we'll see, maybe later. Who knows what's going to happen? But also they had Comedy Central Records, and they were like, as Comedy Central Records, we will produce it as an album. So that is who produced the album Meet Robot that came out, which is my second album. And as it turned out, because I was able to put together a separate album from what would become the special that ended up on Netflix, that is now on Amazon, Small, Dork, and Handsome, since Comedy Central was like, no thank you to making a special, the production company that agreed to make it into a special, we submitted it to various people, and a production company that I forget if their name was at the time New Wave and now is Comedy Dynamic, or the other way around. They've had a couple names, but this production company was like, they listened to the album and they're like, we like it, we'll produce the special. And then they produced it, and then they shopped it around, and the person that bought it was Mr. Netflix.
That's awesome. But yeah, I really did like the album, and I do just want to have one quick quote, not a joke, but just a quote from it, which I thought was really kind of relevant to the time. Is you said, if you're tougher, then I think that makes the world tougher because you're part of the world. And if you're kinder, I think that makes the world kinder because you're part of the world. And I can't imagine a more relevant line for right now. And obviously this isn't something that you were planning. I'm hoping this is not something you were planning for, but it was really good. And anybody who wants to hear this album, like you said, there's a lot of love and connection and all that in this album. And it was really good. That just really stood out to me for that. My last question just about the album, or just the process of making an album like this, is what, so you've made the album, it's mastered, it's ready to go. Now you're just waiting for it to come out. Like, what is that feeling? And is that feeling different in not this world versus this world, because you could be out touring or doing something else and maybe distracted from?
Good question. Thank you for sharing. I mean, part of the process of waiting was deciding to call it AKA instead of the original title, which I brought it to Edinburgh with, which was All Killing Aside, because the themes, as you said, are love, compassion, and not murdering, which is the perfect name for an album of those themes, but not as perfect a name when it's coming out amidst a global pandemic where there's uncertainty, disease, death, and people concerned without knowing the context. People are like, okay, all killing aside, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? So that's why we opted. So some of the run up to releasing the album was, some logistical things, some getting ready to promote, going on like a number of podcasts and, speaking with different magazines and like doing, interviews and just other options and possibilities to help spread the word about the album. So in the pandemic time, which I'm not like, I wish that it didn't happen. It was not part of our marketing plan. It was not, I don't think that this is my doing or the publicity firm that I'm working with doing. But given that, I mean, I am grateful that I have a home, that I have my health, that right now, that I have my girlfriend, that I have the time to, that there are people that are doing podcasts that are able to, like, that the technology exists to spread the word. I'm grateful that I did record it in the before times when we didn't even know that there would be a time that albums couldn't be recorded for some hiatus. And so I'm grateful that I got to do it. And now grateful that I do get to have this time that to focus essentially mainly on spreading the word about the album, as well as continuing to, work on creating new things for myself and in the world and understanding and doing my best to help myself, my loved ones, strangers, others figure out what's going on. What can we do? Stay inside my home. I'm a hero. Perfect. Thank you. What else?
You did it.
And so I would say I've never released this album not during a pandemic, but the plan was to be, going to LA, going to San Francisco, going to Boston, going to Seattle, going to Portland, doing like shows of like really a release show tour of a kind. And we're doing that virtually. I'm doing, shows virtually every day, or I'm doing virtual shows virtually every day. And then also just since the album is available electronically, it is, I'm not glad for the pandemic, but I am glad to offer during the pandemic something that people can listen to that I'm really happy to have recorded, that I'm really proud of.
You've done a lot of talk shows. When you do a talk show, do you get to meet the host, or do you just see the handler and you meet him after?
Good question. It's different on every show. Some hosts you do meet in advance, some you do meet after, some you only interact with them on the stage. But some of them, like the one that I've done the most, I'd say, is Conan. Yeah. And I think every time I've done it, which is maybe 5 or 6, they're 5-ish or 6-ish, I'll say. He has been very friendly and forthright, and like has come to my dressing room in advance and has come by afterwards. If I have friends there or a girlfriend, like he's stayed and like chatted with us he's like been very giving of his time, and many of the hosts are like that as well.
So when I brought to you the idea of bringing a movie forth to us to do a commentary for next week, you brought us Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So what has that? You gave us a whole list and there were some great movies in there, but this one actually just lines up with stuff we've actually been doing right now. What has that movie in your consciousness right now that you would suggest it?
Great question. I mean, I guess, a lot of us are thinking about, the darkest timeline. Like maybe we can get into another dimension. Like what happened here? Did something, why is the president? Oh God, is this, there must be a better way. I guess I hadn't thought about this explicitly, but a TV show that I've been enjoying a ton recently is I watched it all the way through. The only season that exists. And then I just started rewatching it with my girlfriend all the way through. And we're a couple in now, is Midnight Gospel. Have you heard of or seen this show?
No.
It is fantastic. It is weird and out there, but Duncan Trussell is a comedian who I have known for a long time.
Is it a cartoon?
It is a cartoon.
I just saw the thing on Netflix today.
Oh yeah, it is. I love it so much. Duncan is like a psychedelic comedy wizard. His podcast is called Duncan Trussell's Family Hour, and he has taken some of the interviews from that show, including one with his mother who passed away years ago, and then uses either recreate the conversations or uses the footage that they have, and then has him as like this being. It seems like an alien being who like goes into this virtual reality, or it's unclear whether he's actually I don't know if he's traveling 2 different dimensions or seeming like he is, but he sticks his head in this like living machine type thing, and then he like just rockets to a different planet every episode and meets a creature, a character voiced by a wise person in real life, and learns things from them in each of these different dimensions about life, death, consciousness, drugs, psychedelics, everything, like all these things, like everything that is interesting to him and to me. It's just so beautiful. And so that has also been in my consciousness recently, is this, dimension spanning, dimension traveling entity of learning and, trying to help himself and the world be better or more interesting or more knowledgeable, like more kind. And I've also just been a fan of, I've read Spider-Man comics since I was a child. I think Eric Larson was writing them when I started, maybe Todd McFarlane, like in that era. And I still love Eric Larson stuff to this day. I still read Savage Dragon, like ever since it came out in 1992. It's still
Is that still going?
It's still going.
Wow.
It's very exciting.
I won't lie to you. Todd and I, we've known each other since grade 1. And we used to go up to his aunt's cottage every summer for 3 weeks. And there was a comic book store in town, and we went in there. And the first comic I bought the first time we went into that store was Savage Dragon at #1.
I wish we could have kept them. I had all up to 6.
Oh, yeah.
One of them was like the day he fought the Ninja Turtles, and the Ninja Turtles were like rated R.
Oh, yeah.
It's true. It was awesome.
That's
100%.
That's so cool.
Oh yeah, I loved. I got the single issues for a long time. Like now, I will get like the trade, or I'll get it on Kindle or whatever. But I've read every story up until at least the last couple of years, and I catch up every once in a while. But so I loved Eric Larson's Spider-Man, his Amazing Spider-Man, and then Spider-Man was like, I read Spider-Man, I read X-Men. I didn't love the X-Men comics, but I just thought I was supposed to be reading them. I'm like, well, you got to know what's going on in this universe.
Yeah.
They keep Secret Wars, all this stuff of these
Secret Wars is
crossover
cool.
stories. You got to keep, how you got to know what was going on. But like, I did love Spider-Man, like the character, and like then so many wonderful people have written him, like recently, like obviously Brian Bendis and then Dan Slott. And so like, I still read Spider-Man, and I still love, and right now I think it's Nick Spencer is writing it, and it's like cool. It's like I love it. I love stories, and I love specifically like when people who create beautiful stories. Like I more read for who's writing something. Like I'll read anything by Neil Gaiman even if I don't know who the characters are. I'll read anything I think by Eric Larson because I just love what he does. But Spider-Man also is just this iconic. I love Spider-Man, and so even if somebody that I don't know is writing Spider-Man, like let's see what this person's Spider-Man is like with Into the Spider-Verse. I mean, it's just like it's one of the best movies. Like not even just animated movies, not even just superhero movies. It's like it was so groundbreaking in form, in structure, and in like being so both faithful to the content like that. Yeah. I can't imagine. I haven't read like of any. I haven't like looked for it, but I feel like the nerdiest comic nerds would appreciate. Like I'm nerdier than most people, and I'm less nerdy than most nerds, like or than most comic book nerds of any specific kind of nerdery. Like I don't go as deep as the people who go the deepest. Yeah. But I have my fingers in a lot of nerdy pies, and so I don't know if there are like extreme Spider-Man comic book nerds that have any issue with it. But to me, I'm like, wow, they really did it. Like all the other Spider-Man movies, you can watch and be like, oh yeah, sure, like well, okay, they it's like appealing to a more mainstream audience. Great, fine. Like I mean, some of them are great, and some of them are like I like watching them. But this one, it was just like every moment, it was funny the way it's like you'd want it to be. It was action packed the way you'd want it to be. So it's just, it really stuck with me. And one reason that I specifically picked it is when you gave me a list of the movies that you had done, I looked at all the Spider-Man movies that you had done. I was like, oh, I can't believe, I'm grateful that you haven't done this one, because this one is, I think legit the best one.
Absolutely is.
I agree with you. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but I came across one thing, if you would indulge me for just a moment before we go.
I will.
I was doing a deep dive on you, just doing some research, and I came across probably the dumbest website I've ever seen, and reading the information just made me laugh, and I just wanted to read what I read to you. And I do want to preface it with what it says at the end, is all dating histories are fact-checked and confirmed by our users. We use publicly available data and resources to ensure that our dating stats, our biographies are accurate. So this is datingcelebs.com.
Oh, wow.
So this was a few pages in, and it was like number 4 on Google or something like that. So I just want to confirm with you that your height is under review.
Oh, thank you.
And that you will currently weigh pounds.
Oh, got it.
That your girlfriend is Catherine Voskresinski, which I believe is correct.
That is correct.
That is correct. But bad news for you, as you are a Libra and she is a Taurus. Libras are most compatible with Gemini, Leo, and Sagittarius, and Aquarius. So bad news for you. And then Catherine Voskresinski is currently 0 years old.
Oh,
so
that's close.
So yeah, you've got. So I mean, I'm not going to rat you out because you seem happy. So just one.
She's not even born yet.
Yes, and
I mean, she's being born.
Yeah,
right
she's
now.
like in the process of forming. You're like,
Yes.
that's going to be my wife.
I mean, also, I don't want to. I like it better that she is being born right now or being formed currently.
Yes.
But technically speaking, you know, when you turn 1, then you're 1 for a year. So
Yeah.
when you turn 0, it could be any time
Yeah.
before her first birthday.
that's what I was.
Forming to right.
Yes, I already
I
told
like
you
that they know his girlfriend's name, but they don't know how tall he is.
Yeah,
He has feet. Like they don't have a fucking clue.
they
but
didn't even
his
take a
girlfriend's
guess.
name.
They're looking at pictures with me and her, and they're like,
Yeah.
she is taller than him, but she's 0. So how tall could
Yeah.
he be?
Well, according to his CD, he's roughly 4 inches tall. But and then just so you know, is Myq Kaplan having a relationship affair? This information is not available. So if you are, they're not onto you. I want to thank you so much for spending some time with us. We had a blast.
Wait a second.
Oh, you got something.
Your birthday is October the 7th.
That's right.
I'm October the 15th.
Oh, that's nearby.
Coincidence?
Not really. Somebody's got to be born someday.
Shut
I
up.
mean, no,
Not you, him.
It was fated to be. We were
That's
fated
right.
to
That's
be
correct.
born 8 days apart,
That's correct.
probably some years apart,
Yeah.
and then do this podcast together.
Agreed. See? He
because
gets it, Joe.
Joe-
He gets it.
Yeah.
Reached out when I said, "Hey, I've got an album out, and I'm looking to do podcasts. Does anyone have a podcast?" And
Yeah.
Joe said, "I have a podcast." And I was like, "You seem like a friendly fellow."
Yeah.
And it turned
He's a
out you
monster.
were a friendly fellow. And you're like, "I've got this other guy on the podcast too." I'm like, "Well, I'm sure that your friendliness will make up for whatever he brings to the table." And what do you know? It really almost did.
Almost underlined twice.
All right.
It's been a pleasure.
But thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. A.K.A. is out now. Go get it wherever you purchase such things. Is there anything else you want to plug before we go?
I mean, that's the thing that I care about the most right now, and
Mhm.
all of my social media is Myq Kaplan, spelled the way that I spell it, and also my podcast is called Broccoli and Ice Cream, and I talk to nice people about the things they do and find joy in. So thanks for engaging in all these such things, and I am doing. While not performing live outside my home, I'm doing a bunch of things that you can find out about on my social media. So thanks for getting the album and engaging with the past. And then thanks for engaging with the present and possibly the future if you can get there.
Wonderful.
Thank you
Good
very
luck.
much for doing our show.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you very much. All right. Have a good night. Stay safe. All right, guys. That was Myq Kaplan. Fantastic. I can't say enough good things about him. Once again, his album, A.K.A., is available now everywhere. Well, probably not everywhere. Like, you probably couldn't go on, like, Uber Eats and get it. So anyways, yeah, anywhere you can catch his stuff. Broccoli and Ice Cream, his podcast, you can catch it there. And just go to MyqKaplan.com, and it's MYQ if you do not know better. That's how you can search him, and you can find all his various social medias under the same name. And yeah, by all means, check him out. But he's laid the gauntlet down for us. We need to do a movie.
Right.
And we're going to do it. and let us listen to the trailer for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
My name is Peter Parker. I'm pretty sure you know the rest. I saved the city, fell in love, then I saved the city again and again and again. Look, I'm a comic book, a cereal, I did a Christmas album, and a so-so popsicle. But this isn't about me. Not anymore.
Spider-Man swings in once a day, zip-zaps up in his little mask and answers to no one. I love you, Miles.
Yeah, I know that.
You gotta say I love you back.
Dad, are you serious?
I wanna hear it.
Look at this place.
Dad, I love you.
Dad, I love you.
That's a copy.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Miles Morales. I'm the one and only Spider-Man. At least that's what I thought.
You ever hear of the Super Collider? You're gonna love this.
Dimension opening now.
You're like me.
That's impossible.
All right, kid, listen up. This fry is your universe. It's soggy, it's weird, it's gross. And this delicious normal fry is my universe. So you want to learn to be Spider-Man?
Can you teach me?
Yes, I can. Time to swing. Good, you're doing it. Double tap to release and whip it out again.
Okay.
Whip.
And release.
You're a natural. Whip.
Hey guys,
Who are you?
I'm Gwen Stacy. I'm from another dimension.
How many more spider people are there?
Hey, fellas.
Hello.
This could literally not get any weirder.
It can get weirder.
Okay. We need to get back to our universes soon.
Brooklyn is gonna collapse. My family lives in Brooklyn.
Whoa.
Miles, what's wrong?
This was never your city. It's mine.
If I don't destroy the collider, none of us will have a home to go home to.
Remember, what makes you different
Let's go.
is what makes you Spider-Man.
Officer, I love you.
Wait, what?
That way. Other way.
Do animals talk in this dimension? Because I don't want to freak them out.
All right. So I'm looking forward to this. It couldn't have come at a better time because
Agreed.
it's literally coming right after our MCU marathon love, all that kind of stuff. So that's it. Next week, Into the Spider-Verse. You're going to hear more from Myq Kaplan. You're going to hear some stuff that wasn't in this week's episode. And we're talking about the movie specifically and all that. And also, if you are interested, the complete unedited interview will be released that same day on our website. So you can go to miscastcommentary.com and you can listen to that there. So for now, we're going to leave you at that. It feels like we're recording a very short episode because there's a giant interview in the middle.
Love it.
Isn't this the
Less
best?
work for me. We already did the work before.
Right?
Slap it in.
Slap it in there. All right. Thank you guys all so much. Thanks again to Myq Kaplan. Once again, go check
Thank you,
out all
Myq.
his stuff. And we will catch you next week.
This has been Miscast Commentary with your hosts, Joe Finley and Todd Murray. Executive producer, Joe Finley. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen. Visit www.miscastcommentary.com for all news related to the podcast. Miscast Commentary is a Miscast Media production.